Hello everyone, and welcome to today's InsideLocal webinar. Today's topic is Advanced On-Site Local SEO Techniques, as it says on the screen there. This is actually the second webinar in the InsideLocal series, and like I said, looking through the list of attendees, I can see a number of familiar names who attended that first webinar, which actually happened at the start of July. So welcome back to you, and welcome to all of our new viewers and listeners. On behalf of Linda from the Local Search Forum, myself, and our two esteemed guest speakers today, we thank you very much for taking the time. We know how busy you guys are and how how much kind of work you've got to do. So we really do appreciate you, giving us kind of 60 to 90 minutes of your time today to kind of take you through this particular topic. We've had a great response to both the first webinar and today's webinar. We've had nearly 900 people register for today's webinar, which is actually a fantastic response. And I think that what that shows is how people in our industry, whether you're an SMB, an agency, or a consultant, how hungry you are to learn about local search and how much of a kind of complex and diverse kind of topic and sort of businesses that we work in. What we hope is that over the next 90 minutes we'll provide some excellent answers to your questions. And all those answers won't be coming from me, although I'll be involved in the Q&A later. As I said, we are lucky enough to be joined by a dynamic duo of speakers today. And I'm going to introduce them a little more formally in a bit. Before I do that, I just wanted to run through a few things, so you know what to expect from the webinar today, and also what is expected from you. So very quickly, the agenda today is kind of, or the format is kind of broken down to two parts. We're going to look at optimization for single location businesses, and then we're going to look at optimization for multi-location businesses. And within each of those kind of areas, there's going to be, I guess, a more kind of detailed sort of topics that we cover. And this is just a quick example of sort of things we will cover. It's going to be very extensive, the content range that we cover. So things like meta content tags, images, etc. Essential landing page elements, other local search signals, use of correct markup, content, and what that means for local websites in a kind of post-Panda world, Google authorship. So that is not the full breadth. That's just a taster for the sort of areas that we'll be covering in the webinar today. The webinar is kind of broken down, I guess, into two parts. The first part is 50 minutes of presentations, and each of our guest speakers will be handling a specific part of the agenda with their own presentation, and then we'll have a Q&A session at the end, and that's going to last for anywhere from sort of 30 to sort of 40 minutes. Like I said, we're aiming to finish this within 90 minutes. Any questions that you've got should be posted into the question module. Please do keep them on topic. We'd like to kind of keep this as tightly bound around the topic of on-site optimization. Linda is actually going to be answering some questions by text, so she's going to be monitoring the questions as they come in. I'll also be monitoring them and sort of plucking out the questions that we will put to our guest speakers at the end, but Linda will try and answer as many questions as she can do. It's likely that we'll get a lot of questions, so apologies in advance if we don't answer your questions, but just due to the volume, knowing what we got last time, we won't be able to answer all of them. But any unanswered questions can be posted to a specific thread on the Local Search Forum, and Linda is going to send a link around in the chat in a minute, so you know what that URL is. So if we don't answer your question, then you can always post it to the chat, and Linda will either answer it or one of our speakers, or also one of Linda's team at the Local Search Forum. A little bit of kind of housekeeping stuff. The webinar is being recorded. It'll be available in 2 or 3 days once we've edited it, mainly to remove my stuttering and any other sort of technical glitches which may come our way. So that'll be available in 2 or 3 days, and we also have your email addresses for having registered. We will email you with the link to where you can access that recording. There's no webcam view at the moment. Unfortunately, there's a limitation in go to webinar, where only 100 people could see the webcam, so we opted not to do that so that we could all do a presentation in our pajamas. The slide decks will be uploaded to SlideShare after the presentation, and tomorrow morning you'll get a follow-up email with all these details and also a link to where you can access the slide decks that we used. We're also trying something new during the webinar today. We're going to try and do some polls, little sort of surveys, just to kind of get a bit more interaction early on in the webinar, also to understand how things are going for you, what's happening in your search live. So at various points during the webinar, you'll see your screen have a little sort of poll pop up. And the idea is it'll be sort of fingers on buzzers, 60 seconds to answer, and if everyone can answer this, that'll be great. They'll have a really good sort of sample size of a few hundred consultants and agencies at the end end of it, and as long as the technology allows us to, we'll sort of post the results and let you know what the results of those are, but also email you and let you know what the results are. And if the results are really exciting, then we may construct a bit of research around it. We may do a post on BrightLocal or potentially on search engine land. So if you see those polls pop up, you've got 60 seconds to answer. It'd be great if you could do so. A little bit about InsideLocal. InsideLocal is a kind of collaboration between BrightLocal and the Local Search Forum. Linda and I have been talking about doing a kind of sort of free, very kind of content-rich event of this nature for quite some time, and it's very exciting that we're now kind of getting into the process with our second webinar. They're designed to be sort of bi-weekly webinar series, so roughly two per month. We're really kind of focusing on what the hot issues, trends, and opportunities are within local search, and it's really focused around two things: great content and really excellent speakers. And we've been lucky enough so far to be joined by some absolutely fantastic, well-renowned, extremely credible, stellar speakers. So I'm sure Matt and Mike won't let us down today. The webinars themselves are very advanced, informative, and also very actionable. We have 4 upcoming webinars planned, and at the end of this webinar, I'll take you through those dates and the details of those. So today's speakers, I'll just give them a quick introduction. Matthew Hunt is the chief coach at smallbusinessonlinecoach.com. Having run numerous successful e-commerce sites, Matthew turned his attention to local and now runs a successful consulting business. He blogs regularly about all matters related to search and is also a contributor to the well-known Local Search Ranking Factors survey. Matthew is actually a trained actor, so we do expect great things from his delivery today. But unfortunately, he has a rather limited vocabulary, has a tendency to swear. He has promised me that he won't swear, but if he does swear, we take no responsibility, and Matthew has promised to pay me $10 for every expletive that comes out of his mouth during the session. So Matthew, you've been warned. My bank balance is looking to get bloated, so let's see how you do. Mike Ramsey is runs a very successful local search agency called Nifty Marketing, based in Burley, Idaho. He's a regular speaker at SMX and is also a part of the team who run the local U training events, which are truly fantastic events. He contributes also to the Local Search Ranking Factors survey, and again is a pretty prolific blogger. So, guys, really thank you very much for joining us today, for sharing your time and expertise. And I personally am looking forward to learning a lot today, as I'm sure all of our attendees as well. You've also got myself and Linda here, and obviously I run BrightLocal. Linda runs the Local Search Forum. We're really delighted to have got these events up and running to attract such great talent as Mike and Matthew to join us, and we hope that InsideLocal becomes an ongoing, on-running event which can really bring a lot of great content and great speakers direct to to kind of jobbing SEOs out there, whichever country you're in, whichever county, state, town you're in. So we really hope this will take off and you enjoy today's webinar. So I think we should just jump in there and get started. The first thing I want to do is do our first poll, and this poll is actually asking what percentage of time do you spend on local search optimization. So my colleague editor is going to action the first poll. Fantastic. That seemed to work quite well. So guys, thank you very much for doing that. We will try and analyze the results and give you the feedback on those shortly. So on to the first section, which is about local search optimization. I'm now going to hand over controls to Matthew. So just give me a second while I do that.
Okay, excellent. So thanks for the introduction, Miles, and that was great. I do have a mild case of Tourette's, I think, sometimes, or at least my team will tell you that. They've got bets going on when they watch this webinar on how many times that I might slip up and swear. So if I do, I apologize. It's just I have a horrible habit of swearing, which I'm going to try and break it sometime in the future. But let's get on with the presentation. So my job was to talk about the basics of on-page optimization with a focus on local. And let's see here. Oh, this is not. Slide's not changing. Hang on one second. Are you guys there? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I think you're good.
There we go. So finally got to change. So what I like to do is I like to do this with all the clients that I work with, including my team. And I work with a lot of small business owners, and I think this is what they think SEO is. It's just like this cartoon, and it goes, and that is in simple terms how to increase your rankings on the search engines. And at the end of the day, when we really look at all this stuff, on-page SEO is really not calculus. As I tell my team all the time, it ain't fucking brain surgery. Oh. So I'm going to go through what the basics are, and we're going to tell you, as a single location business, how you can rank better on Google. And I love this meme, page 1 on Google, baby. Here are the basics. So the basics are this, keyword research, and we're going to get into what that is in just a minute, but you got to know what the keywords that you want to rank for, so you got to do a little bit of research. Title tags, don't worry if you don't know what it is, meta descriptions, headlines, H1 tags, H2s, permalinks and slugs, body content optimization, local markup, review markup, author publisher markup, and so forth. Again, don't worry about what any of that is. We're going to go through that one step at a time here, and we're going to do a little example wireframe infographic at the end that explains it all a lot better. So keyword research, you got to know what you want to show up for. So I have this little cartoon with Dad. That's the most searched keyword in the search engines. And so, and I don't know if you can see it or not in my presentation, but he's searching on Google and it says sex, and I just thought that was really funny. You got to get online, do some keyword research. There's some really great free tools out there that do that. I suggest that you jump online and use Google AdWords tool. They have the keyword planner from Google. If you just type that in, you'll find it. Throw in your keywords, and one of the cool things that they've added to it recently, if you can see this, is you can actually choose your location. So you can kind of get some keywords that are maybe specific to your actual location. I'm not going to get into actually how to use it, but this is one tool that you could use to do some keyword research if you don't know what kind of keywords that you want to show up for. Another one that I love that we use all the time is Google Trends. So a lot through this presentation, I chose as an example that I'm going to be focusing on is if I wanted to rank locally as a plumber in Toronto, which is the city I'm from, Toronto, Ontario, Canada. You would use these tools. So I put in plumber, and you can see over here I selected the area Ontario. I can see the search graph that's going across since the beginning of time, and I also get to see related terms. These are real terms that people are using, so this is going to tell you a little bit about what people are searching for. You can sort it by top to rising and so forth. Another great tool that we use all the time, this is actually my favorite way of discovering keywords for local search optimization, is using Google Suggest and Google related terms. Generally speaking, they're not making this data up, and I find a lot when it comes to local search when we start using Google's keyword planner or keyword tool that we're not going to get real search volumes of what's going on local just because there's not enough data, particularly in smaller cities. So we have to use clues. We have to read between the lines about what it is that we want to show up for and what are some of the related terms that we want to have in our content. And this is a great way. So as you can see here, if I was a plumber, I would type in things like this. Why is my toilet running? Why is my toilet water brown? Why is my toilet water sweating or clogged? I'm sure you have fantastic visuals going through your head right now as I read off Google Suggest terms. And then down here you can see the related terms, again, this with the same phrase, it's giving us other ideas of what's going on. Why is my toilet bubbling? Well, maybe you stuck something down it you shouldn't have. Why is my toilet constantly running and so forth? And these are also great content ideas. They would make great micro videos that are a minute long, or they could be great FAQ questions, or they could be great blog posts. One of the things I like to do on sites like this that have a lot of questions around it, I actually like to throw a question and answer section on the site. That's a little pro tip to you. Throw in these questions, have the owner, the small business owner, answer those questions, and it's a great way to trick them into blogging. They create lots of content, lots of good stuff for the long tail comes through. Now, you can do this manually, doing Google Suggest and Google Related Terms, but I really suggest that you go out and get yourself or use some of these tools. I personally like keywordresearcher.org. It's a great desktop tool. Throw it on. I don't know what it costs, 20, 30, or $100. I don't. It's pretty affordable. I think it's under $100. And if you toss in one of these terms, it'll literally pull back thousands of long-tail terms for the keywords that you want to show up for. And those are the keywords that you're going to want to put into your content and on the page. Uber Suggest is a free tool that does the same thing, and it mines the data from Google Suggest and Google Related Terms. So I suggest that you use this tool to come up with content ideas and to figure out what kind of keywords and words that you should put on the page. Another great tool is this 5-minute sites /local-keywords.php. I love this one for AdWords particularly. You can just throw in a keyword, throw in the zip or the cities, the postcodes, and it's more based for the US, so it's not so great for other places obviously, but it'll pull up thousands of variations of your keywords with different zip numbers and local modifiers. So it's a real handy tool to have. All right, high five. Now that you know that what kind of keywords you want to rank for, we assume that you did that research. We then want to start optimizing the page. So the most important part to really on-page SEO is the title tags. If you don't know what a title tag is, I don't know if you can see my mouse or not, but I'm highlighting right up here where it says, this is an example here, absolute draining and plumbing, Toronto Plumbers dash 416-252-5557. Great number, easy to remember. So that's a title tag. And this is your opportunity to tell the search engines what this particular page is for. So if you're not using them, I highly suggest that you use them. Most small business owners usually use like an easy CMS like WordPress. I know that we do. We actually build like 98% of our websites on WordPress. And so if you use something like that, it's really easy to create your title tags. You just get a plugin like Ultimate SEO or SEO for WordPress by Yoast or All-in-One SEO. Grab that, throw it in, and it'll allow you to sort of preview the title tag. You have about 69, 70 characters to write the title tag. Anything more than that will just go ... where it's going to get cut off. So you want to try and keep underneath that. Google does technically measure the title tag by pixels, but the rule of thumb that I usually go by is keep it underneath 69 characters and you're good to go. Now what you want to do for a title tag is always write it for humans first, okay? Ideally, we want it to contain your keyword that you're targeting as long as it logically makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, well, don't write it just because you're trying to rank for it. Don't keyword stuff it. Don't put all your keywords and commas and silly things like that you see in there. Treat it like a headline, just like this is your opportunity to sell. Now, you want to try and put your keyword in there, and you also sometimes want to throw in your phone number. The reason why you might want to throw in your phone number is that when you're in mobile search and you're looking on your iPhone or your Android phone, a lot of times people don't want to take that secondary step where they, go over to your website to get your phone number. If they can see it in the title tag or the meta description, often they can just click on it and it'll be click to call, come right through to you. So it's really going to help you do that. I would use things like pipes and dashes to make it easy to read. There used to be, a lot of people used to kind of push that you would put your main keywords up front and then your brandable keywords at the back. In this case, they put their business name of Absolute Draining and Plumbing up front. I don't really believe that it matters so much. I think that if the keywords are in there and your brand's in there and your phone number's in there, it's a pretty good job. This is not one of our clients, but they're doing a pretty good job of their title tag. So this is one of the most important parts of your on-page SEO, period, whether it's local or regular SEO. But when it comes to local, my suggestion is put in the phone number. Okay, meta description. So that's the section that's just below here that we see here. Let me come back up. Where it says here, Absolute Draining and Plumbing is the trusted choice for professional, affordable Toronto plumbing services. Call us at 416-252-5557. So this is great. You want to try and keep this is your opportunity to sell the click. The meta description doesn't really have a ranking factor. Well, I believe that most people stand behind that. It's not going to improve your rankings, but what it'll do is it'll improve your click-through rates, which could potentially improve your rankings. And if you set it up right, it sells the click, and if it's in line with what's going on and then get to a page that matches up with what your offer is, then you have a good chance of converting it. It's also, if you keep it lined up, it's good for AdWords, it's good for SEO and usability. So my advice is this, write it for humans again. It's your chance to sell a click. You do want to keep the keyword in it because obviously it gets bolded. So you can see here like plumbing, Toronto plumbing. Obviously the keyword search term that I used in this example contained the keyword plumbing in Toronto, so it's getting bolded, so it makes it stand out. So try and stick your keyword in it. You want to try and keep it 155 characters or less. And the reason why I say 155 is I think that, and don't quote me on this, but I think Bing is at 155 and Google's at 160 and maybe Yahoo's a little bit longer. But keep it at 155 or less and then it's never going to get cut off, and that's your opportunity to sell the click. Also, keep in mind that you may want to write a different meta description for social. So if you're working in WordPress or something like that, use one of those plugins. They'll allow you to write a different description for Facebook and Google, and that's a good tip too. It's going to help you sell the click. So it's on-page optimization for click-through, but not for a ranking factor. H1 tags. So these are H1 tags up to the left, H1, H2, H3, H4. H1 and H2 carry the most weight. Again, you want to write these for humans. This is the actual content that's on the site. If you don't know what an H1 tag is, you can ask your webmaster or a web designer to help you with that. It's usually the first headline on a page. Obviously, you want to make it attention grabbing. Try and include your keyword in it if you can, as long as it makes sense for humans. You'll keep hearing me say that. Always write for humans first. You also want to be mindful of your H1 tags because often they can replace site links. Not always, but often they can in the search engine. If you don't know what site links are, this is what a site link looks like. So I took that example of this AB absolutedb.com. And I put in their brand name, and you can see these are site links that are coming up. And what I did was I went to verify this. I clicked on a topical plumbers. When I went to that page, that was their H1 tag. So that's where they're pulling that. In fact, they're pulling the H1 for the rebate, why choose us, contact us, and so forth. So you want to be mindful of your H1s. It's also good for that actual page, but it's also good for site links. Permalink structure. So these are obviously your URL, or the structure of your URL. Here's an example of bobsplumbing.com. You have a question mark page, or P equals 1, 2, 3. Well, that's pretty ugly, not very descriptive. Nothing bolds in it. So I don't really necessarily believe that it's a ranking factor per se, but it's definitely going to make your URL bold out in the search engine pages, and it's going to improve click-through rates. So I would suggest that you try and keep, try and get the keywords in the URL structure if you can. Note, for those people out there, especially small business owners, if they're tuning into this, and I bring up this note because I've had clients who've done this, who sort of feel that they're web savvy, and they may be in their own mind, but not in my mind. They'll go in and they will, watch a presentation like this and then change their URL structure altogether, and they didn't think of doing like a 301 redirect, which means they just forward all their old pages, and they just neglected all the link juice, citations, and mentions that were pointing to those pages. So make sure that if you have an ugly permalink right now and you go to change it, that you know what you're doing, or consult someone who does, who can make sure that you're pointing the old link to the new link. If you don't have one and you're building a site for the first time, well, it doesn't matter. Just build it well. Have the keywords in it. Okay, the content, body content. I love this little meme. This is for the ladies out there. I hope you don't mind me keyword stuffing, but love, 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 love you. And so, guys, at the end of the day, don't just stuff your content with keywords. Write it for humans first. There's lots of creative ways that we can get local hooks in there. I think that's a Linda-ism, is hooks, the local hooks. I think I've heard her say that a few times, or I think I stole that from her. If I didn't, let's just say that I did. And then, I like to use, obviously, Google-related terms. I like to follow the rule of having the keyword in the first sentence and the last sentence. It's not a hard rule. Write it for humans. Have local modifiers in the content. Have your NAP information. If people don't know what NAP information on the page somewhere that you can is name, address, and phone number. Basically, one of the things that you don't want to do is this. A lot of businesses will try and rank for lots of different pages, and shame, tisk, tisk to Mr. Rotor, or Rotor. You don't want to create all these pages that are essentially the same content, and all they're doing is cycling out the local modifier. That's it may work right now, and I still see it working sometimes, unfortunately, but eventually it's going to stop working. If you do pages, you could potentially even have your website kind of slapped with a panda penalty, which would be, a real pain in the ass. So you definitely don't want to do that, and it doesn't take that much more work to be a little bit more creative. When you're creating your location page content on the page, you can create as many pages as you want for as many different areas, and so you should, even if it's like an area that you're not directly in and you service. Create the page, but here are some ideas on how you can make your page's content unique. Definitely keep your sales messages above the fold. We're selling stuff here, so people don't read, and we want to give them the main messaging of the page. Below the page, people will have detailitis, which is probably like 5% of the population, and then the rest is really for search engine bots. We want to do things like this: create some case studies, driving directions from that place to your location, local landmarks, other local businesses you might mention. You could do a local sales rep or feature an employee that makes the page have unique content. Unique testimonials. If you don't have testimonials, well, get some. Unique photos, videos of the area, local laws and regulations. I mean, there's really endless ideas to come up with unique content on the page, so that each page is unique content. Local markup. Okay, so here's local markup. Now this, for people who are advanced, can handle this. No problem. And this is what it looks like.
Matt?
Yeah?
Matt, can you hear me? We're getting complaints about you cutting in and out and feedback. Is anything going on your end that might be causing that?
Tell me if you're hearing it now.
Oh, yeah, you've got something weird going on with your mic.
Let me change my mic. Give me 1 second.
Hang on, folks. We're just taking a short break.
Guys, while Matthew is sorting that out, we've got quite a few kind of questions being posted in the kind of question module. So I hope everyone sort of found that now. Please do kind of post questions as you go. Like I said, we will come around to answer them at the end. There's also been some great kind of interaction in the kind of question module, with some people asking a question and some people kind of countering with an answer. So I do appreciate everyone kind of being so interactive and supportive during using the kind of question module. And obviously Linda is also in there providing answers where she can do to kind of questions as they come in. So
can you guys hear me now?
I can hear you definitely.
Is it nice and clear?
Oh. Yeah, it is. It was just a bit sporadic. Oh, hang on, we lost you a bit there.
Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3.
You're loud now.
Yeah, I changed headsets.
It's intermittent. Why don't we carry on, and we'll just give you some feedback, Matt, how it goes.
Okay, sounds good. So local markup, guys, this could be advanced for some people. So for those small business owners that it's too complicated or too scary to look at this, just put your name, address, and phone number on every page. Okay, get your webmaster to do it, put it somewhere across the board, make sure that information is consistent across the web, and it'll let Google, they're smart enough to know where you're located. But if you're a little savvier, try and use Schema, or, you know, before some websites used to do other micro formats, but Schema is the best. You can literally just take this content, this right here, and if you know a little bit of HTML, just plunk it in your page and start replacing it. So instead of Bob's Plumbing, put in your business name. Instead of 123 Main Street, put in there and so forth. You get the idea, and you can go through the page and kind of figure it out. But having markup on there is definitely telling Google exactly where you're located, and it's a good idea to have. It's a good practice, but it's not 100% necessary. Schema, review markup. Here's another pro tip. Again, so this is an example of one of our clients. If you can see right here where there's this review showing up here. It says rating 5, review by C, mail by. So we actually have that on the website, this actual special markup. We're actually using HCard on this particular website, but we probably should change over to Schema, review markup. And if you put this on the website, you could have this show up sometimes, you know, by having on the website. One of the pro tips that we like to do is we use WordPress a lot, and so we just use like a little widget area on the side and a plugin that will rotate through on page loads, and we put a whole bunch of reviews or testimonials in there, and we believe, I can't definitively prove this, but I believe that it actually makes them stick better. So, you know, and you're only going to see these show up if it's not going to show up in Google Places, but in natural organic search, you can have them show up. And trust me, these little things improve click-through rate. So it's not going to improve your ranking, but if you're looking on a search engine page and no one else has these rich snippets showing up, then, you know, you're probably much more likely to increase your click-through rate, especially even if you're not number one. You'll draw the eye towards it. So why not put it in? Again, author markup. It's not definitively a ranking factor yet. I think it might be at some point. It definitely is a click-through rate. Again, the question is, do you do publisher markup or author markup? Technically, if you're like a plumbing company, you're probably supposed to do publishing markup, but probably, you know, nobody does. If you look at this page even here, and the reason why you do author markup is because it stands out. You get this wonderful photo that is over here. Try and use, you know, a photo that makes sense. You know, if it says Terry Cord, don't have like some sexy woman there. I've seen people do that. Like, don't misrepresent your business just because you think it's going to improve click-through rates. Make it make sense again for humans, and it will work. If you want to know more about author markup, just go on over here to plus.google.com/authorship, and it'll take you through the steps of how to get this on your site. It's really easy. It literally takes like 15 minutes, and you just have to set up a social profile. Here we go. If you want to check your micro format data, you can use this rich snippet testing tool. You can just come over here to the webmaster/tools with snippets, and you'll see if you have it. If you don't know, as a small business owner, you're out there, you can just throw it in this tool, and you can go back to your website and go, where's all this stuff? Everybody has this stuff. Where's my stuff? And you can bug your webmaster about it. But this is a great tool to test and make sure that all your micro data is working right. What I'd like to do is I actually like to go to an example real quick here. I had my amazing team. Yesterday I quickly asked them to do this up, and they did it up for me right away. They dropped what they were doing, and they built me a quick wireframe of an example of sort of what I would think is the perfectly optimized local page. Now, I'm going to go over to it outside of this presentation because I find it's a little bit easier to see. Can everybody see this? I'm hoping they can see this. I hope there's not a delay on the load. But anyways,
I can see it now, by the way.
Awesome. Okay, so this here is sort of, I'm going to go through the on-page SEO as well as I'm also going to give a quick tutorial on, laying out an ideal web page for a local page or a local landing page. So this is an example if we wanted to rank for licensed plumber in Toronto. That was the keyword that I wanted to rank for. I want to take the title tag again. I want to keep it under those characters that I suggested before. Okay, and here we go. Licensed plumber in Toronto. I have a pipe, the brand name, Bob's Plumbing. And then we want to have meta description. We talked about before, keeping underneath the 155. We want to make sure that it's unique, okay, to humans. This is Bob, has been a licensed plumber in Toronto for 20 years, okay, social proof, been in business for 20 years. He offers a 2-year guarantee in all his work. There's my unique selling proposal. And then here's my call to action. Call 416-888-4545 for a free estimate. So if there's any plumbers out there, you might want to rip that off. I think that it's pretty good, if I might say so myself. And then down here, as we go into the page, this is ideally how I would recommend laying out a page. Obviously, you have your logo and navigation. I do recommend, this is a small tip for those that want to improve their conversions, putting your phone number and your email address ideally in the top right-hand corner. And the reason why you want to put your email address too is it actually improves conversions. I've extensively tested this out many, many times. I know there's a lot of webmasters out there and internet marketers who don't want to put their emails on there because it's harder to track for small business owners, but I tell you, if you put it on there, actually improve things, because believe it or not everybody wants to use your contact form on the page, and not everybody wants to talk to you, and sometimes they just want to ask you a quick question via email, and so by having it there, it'll improve your conversions. And you can just track it as an event analytics. We're not going to get into how to do that, but here's the H1 title here. Do you need a licensed plumber in Toronto? So see, I've worked in the keyword into the title tag. If you want to have an image or a video, throw it in there. I highly recommend that because it's above the fold, and make sure it obviously represents what it is that you're talking about. This image should represent plumbing or look like a licensed plumber, or it should be a 1-minute video or less about that. If you have an image of that, try and use an alt tag, and in the alt tag, use licensed plumber Toronto. That's going to give you a boost and communicate to Google what this page is about. Notice I used the keyword that I'm targeting here as well in the first sentence. Bob has been a licensed plumber in Toronto for over 20 years. And notice how it's matching up with the meta description. So there's the offer that I made that they found me in the search engines. When they land on the page, it's the same offer, or relatively the close, similar offer. Call us here, or take our offer here, what we want. For those people who don't read, which is most of the world, they don't read your web page. If you just look at how long they've been on your site in your analytics, you'll see they're not there for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes reading all about you. They make decisions in just a couple minutes, sometimes just 30, 45 seconds. And if my basement is flooding, I just basically call the first guy that's going to answer his phone that looks somewhat credible. So, benefit, get a free estimate, and then, try and get work in some social proof above the fold as well, like your awards, as seen on in the media, if you haven't been on seen on the media, you have no mentions for radio or TV, really simple. Run a press release at PR Web. Boom, done. Okay, and then you can say that you've been seen on this and PR Web and have some sort of social proof with icons that people recognize. All they want to do is see badges and logos that they recognize. Your online reviews, so make sure you link off to your third-party reviews. People are going to take that a lot more credible than your testimonials. Of course, you're going to write wonderful things about yourself on your website, but on third-party sites like Yelp and Google or City Search or whatever even your industry is. So if you're a plumber and you're in Toronto, one of the big review sites for us in Toronto is HomeStars. You would want to showcase that, as well as you want to throw on the BBB Association logo and stuff like that above the fold. Nope, this is all selling above the fold. That you want to have on there. And then this is the body. We're back to the search engines here, as well as for those people who have detailitis, and this is where we start dropping in our keywords. Now, don't write it like this example that I just gave here right now. I'm just giving you ideas. If you wrote it like this, it would look silly and it wouldn't read well. But, again, drop in the keyword that you're targeting on. So remember, I'm targeting licensed plumber in Toronto. I have plumbing company. And then I'm trying to focus on things. Remember, this is in Toronto. So in Toronto, we call it the GTA, which is the Greater Toronto Area. So have other words that represent that area that Google knows about. We also know that the GTA includes Etobicoke, Scarborough, Toronto. And note, you could hyperlink off Etobicoke or Scarborough or Toronto to a new page and do this exact same thing. You can have your selling above the fold, and then below the fold you have the content that's still optimized for the page, and then you can still have unique content where you're talking about that employee or sales rep or that technician that works in that area, some unique testimonials, and voila, you have a unique page of content that the search engines are going to love and people love, and that's, you know, great that way. You can mention other things too, like the Canadian Institute of Plumbing and Heating. These are associations. Mention that. iMagazine is a magazine in Toronto. Best Plumbers in Toronto. You can read Bob's Plumbing Reviews in Google here, and on Yelp's Toronto Plumbing page here. So I'm trying to create social proof, linking out to credible sites as well. Always linking out to a credible site is a good SEO signal as well. You know, we offer commercial and residential plumbing in Toronto. Jobs too small. Here's a great idea too. We've also had the opportunity to work on big jobs. So let's say you worked on big jobs that are in your particular city. Well, it's great social proof, but if they have local hooks, like here, the CN Tower is very Toronto Science Center, the Rogers Center. So if you've done it, now you can't write this if you didn't do this, guys. Don't do that. But if you have and you have something that your client has done or that you've done, mention it. You know, obviously go into some sales copy. We can help all this stuff. Drop in, this is where I got these related terms. Guess where I got them from? Plumbing repairs, drain backups, clogged toilets. Google suggests, Google related terms. Have your schema markup of your reviews. Put your business information with a map, your name, address, and phone number. If you can do it in schema markup, great. Have some associations there. Again, if you don't know how to do this, you know, get something like your address and phone number in the footer site-wide. Your legal, of course, and there is some sort of proof out there that having legal and contact information on your website can give you a bit of a ranking boost. So, you know, have a real website that people can trust and get in touch with you about. Down here we have a share your feedback widget. It's not really an SEO thing, but it's a great way to capture and funnel reviews. So we like to, you know, we really believe in these third-party reviews, and we really try and get our clients to ask their clients or customers for them as much as possible. But what we try to do is we actually do this. I'll show you an example. So here's one. This is one of our clients. And what we do is we send them to a page like this. And we try and mitigate bad reviews and send good reviews off to the place where we want this proof online. So we simply ask them, like, hey, thumbs up or thumbs down. If, you know, did you have a bad experience? So if you have a bad experience, don't send them online to write about you on the internet. Send them to a page here where you bring them to a page, you go, oh my God, I'm so bloody sorry. Let me kiss your feet and make it better, and put them through a whole sort of, you know, survey here, and at the end ask if you can fix it and make it better so that you can obviously not get the bad reviews out there. But if they had a good review experience, well, then they click on this and then you say, hey, I'm so glad you had a great experience. Why don't you review us on Google? This is how you do it. Make a screen capture video or a handout for them. Link over to your Google page and so forth. Now, you have to be careful about this with sites like Yelp and so forth. You don't want to say review us on Yelp, but you could say, hey, we appreciate reviews and we just so happen to be on Yelp, wink, wink. Hint, hint. And of course the page URL over here at Bob's Plumbing, you want the slug to have in there, licensed plumber. So we'll come back to the presentation and sort of just, we'll quickly wrap it up. So the review is, you know, these are the things that contribute, the best practices, and honestly, guys, this is not brain surgery. If you just even do, you know, 70% of this right, most of you who are in small towns or things that are not competitive will get the rankings that you deserve if you're a small business out there, or if you happen to be, you know, a webmaster or designer or an internet marketer out there. If you just do a few things, you'll get amazing results for your clients most of the time. So title tag, right for humans, have the keyword in it. Meta description, have the keyword in it. Keep it within the within the length of it. Make sure there's a call to action. Have the phone number in there. The H1, put the keyword in there. Make sure it makes sense. Permalink, make sure the keyword's in there. The body content, have the keywords in there. Have your NAP information on the website. Have other mentions of other things that represent that local area. And then things that improve click-through rates that don't necessarily really improve rank is like review markup and author markup. Even schema markup, it's not proven that it's going to improve your rank, but if you can do it, it's a great idea. And that's it. I put this last one in here because my mom is a huge fan of Emergency wrote, and so that's all she wrote. And if you do those things, you can rock it too with SEO. That's the end of my presentation. If you want to get in touch with me, there's my Twitter, there's my website. Feel free to reach out and ask me the questions that you want. I'm going to pass it back over to Miles.
Great. I did, in fact, hear 3 swear words coming out of your mouth, so that's $30 that you owe me. So I will send you my bank details.
Send me your PayPal.
Maybe the fact that we're not paying you to help us today. We'll waive that. We'll generously go it. The end. I'm now going to hand over control to Mike Ramsey. So Mike, be prepared. It's coming your way in just about 10 seconds.
All right. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about multi-location businesses. If we can get the slide to transition. There we go. So Onsite for multi-location businesses. It's somewhere where we spend a lot of our time on. And there's actually a lot of areas that are very, very similar to what Matthew just talked about. And I'm going to try to take different angles on some of those areas or things that are similar. And then if you have questions afterwards, then both of us can tackle those. One of the questions I get the most is this. When people talk to us about a multi-location business, they say, hey, should we build a microsite for each location? Should we build a mega site that houses all the locations and does normal directory status with the locations tab? Or should we create our locations as a subdomain? And here's the answer. I guess the answer is there really is no perfect answer for this case. I think every individual company has different things to take into consideration to choose this, and here's the three things that constantly come up as part of that choice. Time, money, and risk. Okay, so let's talk about these real quick. So if a person is looking to basically not follow the guidelines, it's not in your intention to follow the guidelines on these individual locations, then you would be crazy to have one money site where you're pushing really, really hard, and if that site gets hit, then all of your locations suffer from that. And so in that case, a microsite strategy is probably going to be your best option. Or if you have a ton of money and you want to create really, really awesome microsites in each market, then hey, that might be a great choice for you, and you're able to give a really individual, unique experience on each of those microsites. If you have a lot of money and a lot of time, and you want to do that on a main site, you can use the the subdomain aspect and build out different looking, different navigation structure on each individual microsite, on each individual subdomain, and build it out that way. But in general, I would say usually the less risky, if you're doing things the way that you should, and the most common thing that we see is just building it out on one site. Just having a really big mega site, and then building out your directory of locations under that. That's what we do in a lot of instances. It's usually that you can benefit from all of the locations helping each other rank. Let's see here. I am getting a bit of feedback. I'm not sure who it's from, but you might want to mute if you haven't muted. Okay. All right. So moving forward, we're going to talk a little bit about keyword research. I don't have a ton to say on keyword research for multi-location, but just a couple of tips and pointers and areas that we look at. One is Local Marketing Source, the local keyword tool that they put out, fairly similar to the one that Matthew showed. The benefit to this is you can type in, let's say you're McDonald's, you can type in a zip code from where there's if you have a multiple McDonald's across pretty much every zip code like they do, then you can do a 100-mile radius and generate a ton of keywords based on the locations off of that. You can include the cities, the zip codes, the states, different variations. So this is a very quick way to generate this list. We use it a ton with lawyers where they serve usually a pretty big radius around an area. So this can be used to work for a lot of locations at once. That's why I like this tool. The other area that we use a lot to basically mine keywords is Google Analytics, and I really love doing this. We'll set up a custom segment by state, and so here's an example of how to do that. You can do an include region containing the state, and then you can exclude your brand, and that will give you just keywords without your brand for a specific state. And you can go through, and in this case it was for pest control, and as we started looking through this list, we started noticing that there was a ton of interest in two areas, and that was voles and wasps. And it allows for building out a ton of great content around those two subjects. And so this is a great way to look by state. I especially like it in the service industry, because I find that, you know, regionally people are looking for different things, especially in an industry like pest control. There's different rodents, there's different bugs. People mention them different ways, you know. So this is a great way to find out how people are searching, how they found you, and how you can build out further content. And this can scale, you know, very quickly across multiple states and cities. All right, so moving to Onsite, a lot of what I'm talking on is just about scale and quick ways to get a lot of data, or to do a lot of work or understand something very quickly. So on Onsite, one of my favorite tools is Screaming Frog. Sierra Interactive put together a really awesome guide for Screaming Frog and how to use it. There's a paid version. You can do a lot of what you need to, especially if you're not, you know, thousands and thousands of locations with just the free version, though the paid does offer some really awesome things as well. But in this case, you know, we typed in a lawyer. We're able to pull as many URLs as it can basically go to the site and crawl as it's following links, and then you can see title tags. So it's a quick way to see duplicate title tags. It's a quick way to see errors, status codes on pages, just anything popping up. So I really, really like this. And what we look for, especially if you're building out a mega site, is to have a URL structure somewhat like this. You know, you have your main brand, and then you're building out a locations page. Okay. Now that locations tab, especially if you have multiple locations across state, then you might want to go to a state directory level. If you don't, then the locations tab can hold, you know, 6, 7, 8, 10 different locations without really breaking it up into states or cities. But if you're talking thousands of locations, then this is definitely the proper way to set this up. I've done this a lot. This was given in a presentation that Mary Bowling did. I thought she did a really good job putting together these URLs, so hats up to Mary there. And here's an example of one. This is like a mid-sized company that I've seen that has done this pretty well, and that's U.S. storage centers. So the thing that I constantly see wrong on multiple multi-location sites is that they don't focus on trying to get traffic to their location pages. And really, that's what people are looking for. And they're either trying to push them to products, they're pushing them elsewhere, but they're not really giving the information or making it easy to get to locations. So this is an example of one that actually does a great job. They lead with locations. So in their navigation, that's first, but then their main call to action is choosing a location or entering a zip code so that they can find that location. Now, when it comes to these, these options, I think it's important to give both. You know, I travel a ton for work, and I've hit cities, and you know, I'm trying to find a specific branch of a store, specific location, and they ask me to enter the zip code. Well, I don't know the zip code, so I want to choose the location either by state or by city. So I really like the option of giving both, and I don't like seeing when you only give one or the other, you know, just zip code or just a directory type listing. So if you enter your zip code, of course, it does a search and you can find those, but if you click on the directory page, it looks like this. It goes to states. As you click on the state, it opens up a list by county of the locations that U.S. storage centers have, and they have the name and the NAP information, you know, name, address, phone number, and this is properly coded in Schema across every single one of these locations. And it also will, if you click on any of it, it'll kick you over to the individual location page for the branch. And we'll get to the point where we're talking about the individual location page, but this is more just about the structure of getting them there first. The other option I really enjoy having on a locations page is, of course, a map. There's tons of different interactive ways to build maps. I like building custom My Maps through Google because you're tagging information, and that information is easily accessible and understood by Google, and it can lead to, in my opinion and some things I've seen, this is very similar to the My Maps of old days that used to carry quite a bit of weight. So not only that, but the map's really easy to use. It's very interactive, drag and zoom to find a location, find extra information, driving directions, etc. Okay, so that's what I recommend there. To continue on with the theme of the URLs, even though this isn't necessarily for on-site, you have to build this on-site. On your Google Places listing, your Google Places for Business listing, I always recommend putting the location page as the website URL. A lot of big brands still don't do this, and they push people to their homepage. If they're bringing up local information on your business, it's because Google's determined that they are looking for local information, and pushing them to your main brand page means that they have extra steps to get to the page that they need. And also, there's ranking benefits. We've done tons of testing with this, and determining the on-page information of whatever website URL you list here is what Google uses substantially to understand what your company is about, the information for your company. And this has been a couple years since we did this. Back when when you could switch URLs and see instant basic ranking changes, we tested this from a homepage to individual local landing pages, and within 15 minutes of changing the URL, we saw a listing move up 3 spots in the ranking. So I mean, it was very substantial. But the reason I recommend for a multi-location company also using this is it allows you to, in a sense, double rank. This is a new screenshot. You can see it's the new form of stars there. So this was just taken a couple days ago. This company, Rove Pest Control, ranks twice on the search phrase insect control, and for Omaha. They have the A position in maps, but then when you go down further on the page, their home page ranks also. And you can do this with a home page, or you can build not an exact similar page to this, but like, let's say, for instance, if you chose insect control as a category, but your main landing page is just for Omaha, then you could build out an insect control page for Omaha and get that to double rank as an organic listing. The rule of thumb, though, is once a URL has been used in Google Places for Business, then you won't see that URL ranking double in maps and also organic. You might see a company show up, but it's going to be a different URL, like in this case. So that's the information on URLs. Moving on to title tags, I thought Matthew's title tag example is great. I really like to show people Google's guidelines on title tags. I think that, I rarely have heard this discussed, but the first thing they say is brand your titles, but concisely. And then they give a ton of examples of how to do it. And I love the one that they give because, if you're looking for what's recommended, then check out what Google tells you to do. They lead with the brand name, they put the colon, and then they have, either keywords or call to action or whatever the case can be. So this has been up like this for a long time. This isn't new information that Google's sharing, but one of the new things that they are doing is as followed. ChicagoFaucets.com, okay? Look at their title tag. This is the code down below shows their true title tag. They lead with their keywords, and then they show their brand. Well, Google has rewritten this in search to show brand first, followed by keywords. And I've been seeing this a lot more lately. And so as of now, this is what we've been recommending, and it's very similar to what Matthew showed. Brand name, and then your service and location information, and including your phone number in the descriptions. One of the main reasons why a ton of people have click-to-call options installed on desktop, like a Skype for desktop or something, where they can click on this and it stands out more on the page. So this is a screenshot down below of Action Legal Group, and they have a phone number in their description, and you can see that it shows up as a clickable link. On mobile, it seems to be kind of off and on whether that works or not. It's almost like Google doesn't want it to. It used to, and then it stopped, and then they started making you pay to show phone numbers in AdWords. So I'm wondering if that's all somehow related. But anyhow, it's a great option to always have your phone number in the description. It stands out. Now moving on to local content. There was a really great interview that Matt Cutts did with Eric Enge a while back, and it was specifically, he was talking about content, and this specific question was dealing with multi-locations. And he said, hey, there's a pizza place. Do they really need to go out and basically write the same, piece of content in every different market over and over? When I'm looking for Chicago pizza, I don't care if it's the exact same page in Wisconsin. That's not a bad, or I mean, not in Wisconsin, in like Minneapolis, but is that a bad user experience? And Matt Cutts basically said this. He said, it is still not a good idea to repeat a ton of content over and over again. And so then Eric says, well, what should they do then? He says, in addition to basically name, address, phone number information, 2 to 3 sentences about what is unique about the location, and they should be fine. But I think the key is this: so don't duplicate content. And there's a wonderful tool that we like using whenever we type, whenever we work with a bigger company, because it allows us to see things fairly quickly, and that's SiteLiner. This is done by the Copyscape company, and you can type in a URL, and Anytime Fitness, I'm sorry guys if you're on this call, I've been using you a lot as bad examples lately, so hey, maybe call me baby, or however that song goes. Anyhow, duplicate content shows up at 59% across their entire site, and then it shows you the duplicate URLs, and as you can see here, it's all the same thing, where they're basically copying one location, Daphne to Alexander City, etc. And so when you load up this pages, or when you click on this tool and load up this page, then you can see all the content that's copied, and it's basically the whole page. And then the tool also shows you the similar pages. So by looking at it, we can see that they've just canned the content and then switched out location names. So this is exactly what Matt Cutts specifically talked about and said not to do, and it's still very, very prominent across large brands. And so it takes a lot of work. We've been doing a ton of it, and that's just going through and creating unique content for each location. And we'll talk about some different ways to do that here in a bit. But in just looking at content expansion for a brand or for a company, here's an example that we've done. This was off-season for a pest control company. So they increased page views by 214% year over year, and unique was 190. And this was just on their locations, strictly speaking on locations for this time period. And what we did was, instead of just having like a city page, so Minneapolis being in this example, we built out the individual towns that make up that city, and the neighborhoods, and talked specifically about the bugs that are in those neighborhoods. And by doing that, we were able to see a ton of expansion in traffic. And of course, people who are typing in Arden Hills, pest control, or Arden Hill wasp control, it's going to be much more important than others. So here's a few of the things that we've seen that really make up a big difference, and give a great example of some unique content that you can use on individual pages. Directions, it's nobody writes directions the same way. So this is a really, really easy way to get unique content onto a local landing page. And then local reviews. I really don't like seeing one review canned across an entire site. And if you're able to have a review in Minneapolis for the Minneapolis market, it brings a lot more credibility. And then we work with a ton of lawyers, and what's interesting to me is that bios are usually the most read pages on the site. People are very, very interested in understanding about that, and I see that a lot in service-based industries. It's kind of like the same as a product description in the product space. For service businesses, the person providing the service is the product. So keep that in mind. Another big thing is internal linking. Now, the proper way to do internal linking for multi-location is always to link to nearby locations. A lot of times people will land on, a St. Paul page, and they might have wanted the Minneapolis, or they didn't know that there was Minneapolis content or a Minneapolis office. So listing that allows them to go directly over to there. And then on the state pages, always link over to nearby states. And that way you start building out a really good infrastructure without really spamming internal linking. And this is an example of a company that we went through and did this for. And as you can see, the amount of impressions due to the raise in rankings, it was substantial. They doubled. So looking at website markup, you can't put lipstick on a pig. If your site is really, really awful, it's still going to be a pig at the end of the day. And so, you've got to have everything in order. So if you're not doing the basics, I don't recommend getting into the markup. Once you have the basics covered, you move on to the markup. Showing the structured data tool again, there's a couple things that are really great about this. It's not just that it shows if authorship is working, it actually shows you if your schema is working as well. So in this example, you can see that they've got an organization, schema markup, postal address, and local business. So you can really understand how much markup's going on location pages. When we're auditing a local company, we'll just grab one location page and throw it in, and usually that tells us if they're going to have markup on all the other location pages. It does the same for reviews as well. And here's an example from Truly Nolan where it pulls in this review and it shows that it's working. And generally, you're not seeing reviews getting marked up a ton. I'll tell you why. Well, here's the review, and here's how it works. I mean, I just checked today, and this is still showing, but this is maps, and instead of showing stars related to maps, they have 0 reviews through Google Places, for business or the Google Plus Local, and they have their rating that they've coded on their page showing up. I haven't seen very many examples of this, and here's usually why. It's kind of unclear whether it's against the guidelines to mark up these type of reviews on a location site, and it's just a gray area. You just need to understand nobody really knows. And here's why. When they talk about review markup, they say it needs to be about a specific product or service, right? And so it should be on a page-by-page basis based on the service you're offering. The name has to be valid, but it's just all of the information talks more about, well, if you're reviewing another product, you put this on your page. But if you're just marking up testimonials, that's something Google really hasn't taken a big, wide stance on yet. So it'll be fairly interesting to see, how that continues to work, and if stars will always show up, if they'll continue to pull them out in some ways or keep them around. So a tool that we really like to use to do markup, whether business or like business name and address and phone information, or marking up reviews, is the Schema Creator tool. This was put out by Raven Tools, and they also have a WordPress plugin for it, so it can make it quite easy. And then just real quickly, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on KML files, but to do multiple locations at once, this is like the best tool, because you can just do a file upload of where you put all your information into a spreadsheet and upload it through everything. So as you can see here, you type in the information, if it's a single location, and then it generates the file. Now, the geo sitemap is no longer supported, so what they recommend doing is just adding your KML file directly to Webmaster Tools as a sitemap. And then also, one thing that we do is we always take our KML file and link it within the HTML sitemap, just as the KML file down at the bottom of the HTML sitemap. And then looking over here, this is an example of just overall an audit that we put together, and we've put rankings and weight on specific areas. So we call this basically the perfect on-site local optimization. And we break it up into, the areas for sitemap that you have, your URL structure, the overall local functions of a site, and then the local landing page. And then we break each category into specific factors. So I won't talk a ton about this other than just saying, if you want to go and look at it a bit more in depth, you can follow the link, the bit.ly link down in the bottom, the bit.ly /local grader, and that's on our website. It's an easy way to basically understand, understand how a site's scoring overall. And a lot of times with bigger brands, we see pretty low scores, 30s to 50%. And I would say generally the biggest areas that they need to improve on is how they take visitors through their website from the home page to an individual location page. Do they have a good location finder? And then on the local landing page, they're always missing information. The NAP's not an H-card or schema. They don't have local testimonials. They don't have links to review sites, etc. So this just walks through all of those things. And a long time ago, actually, we built the anatomy of the optimal local landing page. And what we did is we looked at a bunch of companies that were ranked in the top position, in position A in maps, and found what a lot of these sites had in common across all of their websites, or the landing page that was on Google+. And so this is the breakdown of that information. 92% of the people who were ranking had name, address, and phone number information on their page. Not all of it coded in schema. It was a lot less. The calls to action, only 38% had calls to action, but that's something that we recommend. Testimonials, 19%. The unique service and location information, 86% had that. Trust symbols, pictures of staff. I mean, it's a lot of the same information that Matthew showed, but this is just put into a digestible form where you can look at it and also understand how many people across these listings were ranking. And yet again, if you'd like to, you can go and find this at bit.ly /local landing. All right, well, that is everything I have. So thank you. Instead of my Twitter handle being @NiftyMarketing, that is now our company's. So my new Twitter handle is Mike Ramsey. It took me like 2 or 3 years to be able to acquire that, so I'm really happy to be able to have gotten that. So if you're following Nifty, follow Mike Ramsey as well. Thanks.
Mike, that's great. Thank you very much. Very well done, guys. So that was fantastic. I have learned an absolute ton, and we've had a lot of questions come in. And also, again, thank you to everyone who's kind of given questions, but also be given answers in the question module. It's nice to see such kind of collaborative kind of support and help. So thank you very much for that. Okay, so I had a few questions that were posted ahead of time. So I'm just going to field those first, and we'll jump into the questions that have been posted throughout the event. So the first question, and Matthew, it's going to come to you, is what value is there in adding lat and long coordinates or schema to your website? And if you do this, should it be on all pages or just the specific location pages?
So great question, and I'm going to keep it simple. At the end of the day, Google's smart enough to recognize where you're located without schema markup. So, the most important thing, the takeaway here is have your NAP information on the site. That's your name, address, and phone number, where it matches up with what you have on your Google Places and what you have matched up on all your local listings across the web. And if you're a single location, then sure, have it site-wide. Totally do that. But if you're multiple location, then you're not going to obviously do that. You may decide to have your head office site-wide and then have location pages, but you wouldn't put it site-wide. Then it would be a bit different for that. Or you might have certain optimized pages that you're optimizing for that local area, and you can certainly put it on there. It doesn't just only have to be your location pages. Like if you're trying to optimize for a particular keyword locally, for sure you can have directions to that particular location there as well too. Mike, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think when it comes to schema, the key is understanding, I think, the future of where Google's trying to head with that, and that's knowledge graph. Like the whole point of having an understanding of that information so that Google understands how things relate a little better. And as you start seeing, glass, as you start seeing, a lot of these different technologies other than just desktop search taking off, where Google's reading back answers compared to actually showing you search results. I think that the schema information will become a lot more relevant at that point. And do I recommend people, really taking advantage of it? I do, because,
Sure.
the future of search doesn't necessarily look the way it does now. It's not going to be just on a desktop with scrollable websites. It's going to be Jarvis from, Iron Man talking to you about things. So, and so you can still, a lot of that local information, they can figure it out, but anything you can do to help Google figure it out, make it easier for them and connect the dots will probably lead to, better visibility somehow.
Right.
So.
But currently, you would say, would you not say that right now, a website that has schema versus doesn't have any schema, do you think that there's actually a ranking improvement at this time between the two?
I don't necessarily think so in local, other than, click-through. There's definitely some click-through things dealing with reviews if they're showing as rich snippets with schemas, things like that.
Right.
So yeah, that's what I would think for now.
Yeah.
To that kind of point, obviously, optimization is all about making things kind of clear and precise to Google about what it is that your business is about. You talked a little bit about geo sitemaps, and someone posted, Google essentially, kind of wrote off, the value kind of geo sitemaps, kind of last year in terms of kind of recognizing them, and also kind of KML sitemaps. Is there any value in geo sitemaps? And with KML sitemaps, kind of how important is that? And also with your kind of future lens on, what's going to be the future of kind of KML data?
Do you want? I'll go ahead and start. Geo sitemaps are done. That's why I recommend just pushing your KML sitemap directly to Webmaster Tools. Yet again, it's data that's used on other programs. I mean, keyhole markup language is what powers, Google Earth. That's like the markup language that's used across that platform. And so, the information's still valuable. I would look at it like citation information, and putting it on your site's good. But one thing to understand too is companies that are directory based or are doing a lot of those type of things are also showing information in KML files and building their maps in KML files, and Google's still able to read that. So, is it going to be schema in the future? It probably will, but for now, I'd say KML is still fairly important.
Okay. Question for Matthew about if you've got, say, a business that's got 2 locations. Would you on your homepage put both locations in the footer and use kind of schema markup for both of those, or is there a limit to how many sort of pieces of markup you should have on one page? Is that confusing and split the equity in any way by having 2 locations flagged up on one page, particularly your homepage?
So I would do it. I would just design it and develop it for users first. So, if you only have 2 locations, it might make sense, but obviously if you have more, I mean, there's a limit to how many locations you can stick there on the home page. I think, Mike's example of the multi-location that was doing it well, where they give them the choice to list the locations as a zip number, makes sense if you have a lot of locations. But it also depends what kind of business you're on, too. Are you a service area business, or are you a destination business, right? So if you're a destination-based business where people need to get to you, driving directions and getting to you is probably really, really important. So it just depends on the business. But I would definitely just build it for users and what their expectations are. That would be my advice.
You don't see any penalties, and for example, there's a particular question that came in about having markup for two separate locations on the home page.
I haven't specifically, seen that. I think that, any time that it's not clear about, where your business is, you can end up with conflicts. But Mike, I mean, do you have any insight on, a website that has 2 locations on the homepage? Is it being a major conflict of what's going on? I mean,
no, especially if it is marked up. If it is marked up in schema, then it's closing it off and showing it as, 2 separate businesses, which is great. That's a great example of why schema would probably be helpful. One kind of, this is a base rule of thumb. If we work with a company that has up to about 6 locations, we'll actually show that across the footer. That's because that's the information that people are looking for. They want that given to them very quickly. And so we've done that with no problems whatsoever. I think if you start doing, 10, 15, 20, that's when you're going to start seeing it look a little more like keyword stuffing or spamming, you know, if you're linking in the footer to those pages and so on and so forth. So
can I jump in on that one real quick? One thing I've seen is and I just gave the advice in the Q&A, is not to put mixed map on the site, because what I've seen with all the troubleshooting I do helping people is sometimes that leads to a merge of the place pages, and also sometimes that'll drop you out of the blended results because Google's seeing all these addresses, all these place pages, isn't sure what to match. So I usually recommend, for the customer's benefit, putting in a large graphic or links. We have 3 locations to serve you. Click here for our north office, you know, that type of thing, and then leading them to location pages. Do you agree or disagree?
I haven't seen that same level of confusion. So it's, I mean, that's probably on a case-by-case basis, but we haven't had issues in showing multiple addresses, especially on a location page, clicking over to the individual location landing pages. You know, the locations page, that's the overall page, that's what it's there for, and it is fairly good for users. So if you're worried about it, you could do it as an image. I'm not doing it for a ranking benefit at all. I'm doing it for users. So, yeah. But we haven't had those issues. We haven't seen merges happen because of that. So
the other time I find that, Linda, is if the address and phone number information is not clear, and you know, sometimes a lot of these places they mix match their phone number and addresses, and then you start getting that merging problem. But if it's clean data across the web, I've never ran into it as a problem.
Okay, good.
There was another related question to that about obviously going in multi-location businesses and linking from your Google Plus local profile through to a specific location landing page. Obviously, to do that, you've got to have, you know, numerous Google Plus local profiles. But how do you handle the sort of social side of Google Plus if you've got that? Do you need to have individual Google Plus profiles to go with each location, or do you have one sort of central one that you would then connect to each Google Plus local page?
No, if it's location-based business, you have one per location, and it goes across the board, including like Facebook local pages. You need one per location, and so this is a lot of small businesses, or even, you know, they don't understand that each one requires its own social account and activity and posts. You can repurpose some information, but you can't have like one Google Plus page or one Facebook page that's representing multiple different locations, and each one really should have its own personality anyways. So they need to invest in doing it for all, is my opinion. Mike, what's your opinion on that?
The Google is supposedly, you know, going to bring out a way to manage multiple branch or individual location social pages from like one central area, and that way, if you could post across them all, but then individually post on which ones you wanted to. I don't know if, you know, when, how, what that will look like, but it is a challenge. My best recommendation would be to not upgrade to social if you're not ready to go social on your Google Places for Business account, because once you do, you really can't go back. And so, you know, until you're ready to keep a page updated. And so where Google doesn't have a great central management place right now, unless you want to manage, if you have 100 businesses or 1,000 locations or whatever, if you want to manage that many social pages, you know, do it.
It's almost impossible, right, Mike? I mean, how are you going to socially manage 1,000 pages? It's absolutely
it would take.
I don't even know how they do it on Facebook or
I
anything.
See it. I see that done with like insurance agents under a brand, you know, where each individual insurance company might manage their own or something. But I just take that for what it is. Don't upgrade until you're ready to be social.
Well, and also to make sure everyone knows, Google recommends not upgrading to social or merging right now anyway until you have the new dashboard, which is still rolling out. So I'd say, like these guys said, if you aren't ready to do social, just hang tight till Google gets everything coordinated to handle multi-location.
Right. But I don't think it's going to hurt. I don't think it's going to hurt you for switching over. It's not going to hurt you. You just have a non-active social page, which you see that all the time as well with Facebook pages and other things too. I don't think it's going to affect anything. It's just
but if you start building circles and doing posts and then find out, oops, shouldn't have done it that way, it's hard to redo it.
Right.
So would you say the kind of overarching advice is, unless it's absolutely necessary for you to have social and you really know what you're doing with it, don't do it yet?
That seems to be the consensus, yeah, for the most part.
Okay. Another question related to, I guess, multi-location businesses and the scale of doing that is to do with kind of Google authorship. So if you've got one business with multiple locations, how should you handle the authorship piece? Should you? There's two questions in kind of one here is, should you have a single spokesperson who becomes the face of your company, or should you have one person per location, and therefore you're building up a bunch of different kind of local kind of authorship profiles? Then what happens if people leave the business? If this is a bigger business, it's not the business owner who's putting their face out there on the web. Sure. There's a kind of risk by that person leaving the company and then kind of taking all of that kind of authorship equity with them.
Yeah, it's a great question, and technically, if you're a big business like that, you should be doing publisher markup anyways, not author markup. Author markup definitely stands out more; it's sexier because it pulls in your photo like that. But the other option is always, and not everyone may agree with this, is you could create company personas, and you have to be a little bit careful about that, even legally. But if you're really worried about your authorship leaving, that could be an option. I mean, Mike, what do you think about that? I don't have clients who have thousands of locations. I mean, some of my clients one of my clients has 30 locations. That's as big as it gets. But most of the time, I deal with single businesses, single locations, and so I don't have these challenges that way. But maybe you have some insight on how you would handle that on a big company.
So, recently I think it was like SMX Advanced, I can't remember the show exactly, but there was a lot of questions about, when's the right time to use authorship markup, when's not. And they're like, well, think about what it's for. It's for posts. It's for content that's authored, and not necessarily for product pages or for a location page in this instance. It's a little bit iffy because it's, an author is an author of a news story. Or a good post on a blog. And so he's right by saying, publisher markup should go on there, but publisher should only go on the homepage. It's
right.
just right on the homepage. And so beyond that, I don't care if you have an author and they leave your company and you have them marked up, that's fine. Their authorship doesn't go because they've moved companies. As a matter of fact, if they, let's say, I own a newspaper in Little Old Burley, Idaho. So let's say one of my writers leaves and goes and works for the New York Times. As they get more popular, the content that they wrote on my site will still be related to them.
Assuming, Mike, that they don't unlink to your site as a contributor.
Yeah, and they have the choice to do current contributor or move it around, whatever the case is. My take is, it's okay to let them leave. It's okay if they take their authorship with them. And I would be a little careful about creating some type of persona. Just, it might work for the time being, but looking 20, 30, or not even that, even looking 5 years down the road, is Google going to be able to really understand that is a fake persona and then just delete it, and
right.
penalize that, so.
Okay. Some other questions we had about Schema, and one question was, Schema.org versus the older H-card model. Presuming Schema, if you're going to invest in kind of marketing content, you'd go Schema.org?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It used to be that we do both. Now we're to just Schema.
Fine. Pretty clear answer. That's what I was thought I was going to say. Yes, so Schema.org is the winner in that case.
Well, it's accepted by all the major search engines, so I think they've agreed that that's the format that they'll accept it in, so that's the best one to roll with, I think, universally. Yeah.
And so best not to kind of sort of fly in the face of that kind of collaboration. So a few questions about the use of Schema for markup for reviews. Is it spammy to use it? Someone said they did it. they showed some of their, their kind of not colleagues, but their contacts in local search who kind of frowned upon it, and they took it off again. And now we're saying that actually it's not too bad to use it. What's your, and should you use Markup for an aggregate set of reviews, so you get like an aggregate star rating, or should you do it for individual reviews, and what risks are there in doing that?
I think it's great putting it on your site, period, as a business. I think what Mike said about if you're reviewing a product or something like that for it to show up, or if you're a directory site and it's reviews of sites and different businesses, it makes sense. But as your individual standalone business, it's a definitely gray and probably eventually will be seen as a no-no. Will you actually get punished for it or not, or whether they just will stop showing it is another question. My guess is they'll just stop. They'll devalue it and just not show it. Do we do some of it? We definitely do some of it, but we work with the business owner, let them know the gray area, and we definitely know it increases click-through rates too and gets attention. So I guess it depends on your risk factor. I think, Mike, you were talking about that earlier, even about, what do you do, subdomain, microsites, and so forth. It just depends on the individual, their business, and how they feel about it, and how risky they are, I guess, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what I would say. I'm seeing a lot more pulled down than showing compared to the beginning days of, stars showing up in search results. So it's definitely going towards not being okay. But there's a caveat to that, and that is, let's say you have a review portal on your site. If you have a review portal that your clients are constantly able to access, go to, and those reviews are then taken to in the background, and you have an overall testimonial page that they're marked up correctly, I actually do think that will continue to be okay.
Right.
So that's my only little caveat on there. But if you're just pulling off a review and putting it on your homepage and coding it up, saying, "Hey, we're super awesome," those aren't going to last the test of time. So.
Right. So if you put them through some sort of review funnel and collect all the data and present it on a single sort of survey page, and you have the microphone on that one individual page of like, hey, we've been reviewed 500 times, and out of that many times we've got 3.8 or 4 stars out of 5 stars for what it is, and here's the list of all the feedback that we got. You think that's cool and that's okay?
Yeah, if it was like a testimonials page and that's the only place those are at, you don't have those coded up site-wide. That's
right.
That would be the case.
That's no fun, Mike. Come on. That's no fun.
Yeah, that's the cleanest. Now there's gray. For the time being, like I showed you guys, like the Truly Nolan one, their page, their local landing page is showing it in maps.
Yeah.
But that's definitely not the norm. So.
Right. But that's awesome.
That
it was showing up like that.
Yeah. Okay, so a couple more questions, guys, and then we'll probably draw to an end because we're kind of at our time limit. Matthew, you talked about kind of H tags. Is there any kind of cast iron rules for use of H tags, or flipping it on its head, are there any clear no-nos in terms of what you shouldn't do with H tags?
Well, don't keyword stuff them. Don't keep repeating the H1 tag over and over again. Don't, try and keep them in the right order of like H1, H2, H3 that is going on the page. I don't think there's any value going into H4s and H5s. Those are some things off the top of my head as no-nos. Mike, you got any more you want to add to that?
No, I would just say I haven't seen like some people will get really upset if the way that the programmer programs a site, it actually shows the H1, the H1 is further down than an H2 that's up above or something. My take is that there's very little like harm or foul played by there unless you're trying to manipulate. But the advice that has been given is great, which is H1's most important, only have one. As you continue down the page, you can have multiple H2s, multiple H3s, and if you go H2 and then H3 is a sub of H2 and then back to another H2, you're fine. So.
Yeah. Okay. Matthew, by the way, did you manage to dig out the name of that WordPress plugin?
Oh, I got it. So I pulled up a bunch of them. So there's actually like it's the random text plugin is what it's called. So if you wanted to like rotate whatever, and you can put whatever HTML or markup that you want within that. But if you just type that into the search engine as a random text plugin, you'll find it. And then on each page load, it'll rotate whatever information you want. It doesn't have to necessarily be markup. It could be anything that you want to present.
Okay, so random text plugin, that's great. I think last question now, and I'm going to push this one over to Mike. Someone asked about kind of PDF content, and obviously kind of Google can crawl PDFs, but how does it rate PDF content versus sort of standard HTML content? Does it downplay its value? Is it completely erode any kind of SEO value by putting content in PDFs?
The only thing I would say to that is, I mean, look across most searches, and do you see PDF showing up in the top position? You know, it's usually on very long tail search. And so, you know, the day that I see used cars, if I type that in and I see a PDF ranking #1, then I would probably say that there's really high value or equal value. But I would probably say for now that the HTML, of course, is going to probably outrank it, and PDFs rank when there's not HTML substitutes. So,
okay. You can optimize a PDF though too, just like an image or a video.
Yeah.
So there's no harm in optimizing it and going for it.
If you have a bunch of PDFs, use them, but it still goes back to HTML is probably a little better for users.
Sure. Okay. So guys, that's great. I think that's going to be our kind of final question. We got the answers to the polls. So I'm just going to take you through the 3 polls we've done so far. So poll 1 was, what percentage of time do you spend on on-site optimization? And we see that the kind of sort of mean is around sort of 21 to 40% of the time. Some people are spending kind of less than 20%, which seems at the low end, and some people are spending all their time on it. So there's also a few specialist specialist providers or specialist SEOs there, but seems to be the norm is around sort of 36%. Next poll was which aspects of local search do you find the most tricky? And interestingly, review generation and reputation management found the most tricky, followed by citation, link generation. All of our sort of surveys that we do, link generation appears to come up as regularly as the most unpopular task that people do, or the one they have the kind of greatest headache with. But interesting enough that people don't have to struggle too much with on-site optimization. So hopefully after today's webinar, we can get that down even further. And the third question was, do you think local search marketing is getting easier or harder? And overwhelmingly, people said harder. It was less than 20% said easier. So that's very interesting. Whether that's people sort of finding that the constantly kind of game-changing, kind of moving goalposts with local is doing that, or whether people are relatively kind of new to the game. So that as they get into it, they actually find that it's maybe not quite as easy as they might have initially thought. But that's pretty interesting to sort of find that out. And I also think there's a bit of a sort of kind of silver lining to that kind of statistic. If we're in the industry, we're consultants and we're professional SEOs, and we find it hard, then our customers are certainly going to find it a hell of a lot harder. That's going to, our lives make it harder, but our customers' lives are going to get harder, and they're going to need us even more. So that statistic actually makes me smile a little bit, because it means we're going to be in business for a little bit longer. To that end, the final poll I'd like to run now is: do you find these webinars useful? Would you like us to keep doing them? I'm just going to launch that poll quickly. Hopefully you're all going to say yes. If you don't all say yes, then I'm not going to show you the answers and the results.
No, they suck. Yeah, you suck, Miles.
I'll take it as a huge slight. Everyone's been incredibly rude. But we've had, 50% of people answered so far. 83% said yes, very useful, which is good. 18% said yes, quite useful. 1%, one person said not very useful. No one has said no, they suck yet. Please, no one go for that option.
I'm going for it.
As a panelist, I don't believe you're allowed to vote, actually. So, okay. So listen, let's wrap that up there. 80% said very useful, 90% said quite useful. So guys, that's an overwhelming response. Thank you very much for taking the time to do that. A few wrap-up points. Any answer to questions can be posted to the local search forum. We will obviously pull down the questions and answers that have been kind of posted up today. Linda, before I forget, if you could do that for me, I think you know how to do it. That would be great. And you've got the thread there on the screen now that shows you the URL where you can post any kind of unanswered questions. And Linda can also circulate that in the chat box. We've got 4 upcoming webinars. got one on August the 14th, which is great sales strategies for local agencies. So if you run an agency, looking to increase your sales, get more customers, and grow your business, then please come along to that. We've got Laura Beckley and David Sprague talking at that. Then on September 11th, we're looking at enhanced citation optimization, and that's with David Mosseri, myself, and one more speaker to be kind of, I guess, unveiled for that. Then on September 25th, we're looking at local reputation management. We're joined by Don Campbell and Phil Rozek, and actually a couple of people mentioned in the sort of the kind of question module about Don's new 5-star kind of rating site. I actually forgot the name of it on the spur of the moment. Linda, can you remember what it's called?
Get 5 stars.
Get 5 stars. So Don is
with
Don
5
and Phil
spelled out.
Don and Phil are very hot on reviews. We obviously publish a great, a kind of annual local consumer review survey. So we'll be looking to kind of get some great kind of, theory sort of coverage there, but also looking at some kind of practical examples and some useful kind of pro tips. Then on October the 9th, it's our Google Plus Local Advanced Troubleshooting, which is going to be led by Linda, and obviously that's what everyone kind of knows Linda for. So I think that's Linda, I spelled your name wrong. How embarrassing! I'm just going to change that very quickly.
No worries.
You didn't see that happen. So yeah, so Linda may have a couple of people to assist her in there, but that's going to be a fantastic session. I can't wait to hear Linda share some of her kind of pro tips with us about that. If you want to sign up and find out any more about any of these upcoming webinars or sign up for them, then you can either do it on brightlocal.com or on the local search forum, and there are the kind of 2 links. Again, these will be sent around in the email you get tomorrow, so don't worry about it. You don't have to kind of grab these now. They won't disappear forever. We'll make sure that you've got them. And that is it. Thank you very much to both Matthew and to Mike for your time, not only in preparing for today, but in sharing your wisdom and insights and tips. I've learned such a ton, and looking at the kind of feedback we've got, everyone is saying big thank you for you, for sharing with us, your knowledge and insights. It's been extremely valuable. Hopefully we'll all be better SEOs tomorrow or this afternoon when we're back at our desks. And thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. To everyone out there, thank you very much for giving us an hour and a half of your time. Good luck with your days. Good luck with your weeks. Hope it all goes well, and hope to see you on the next Inside Local webinar.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Linda. Thanks, Miles. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, speakers. You guys rock.
Thanks again. Take care, everyone. Goodbye.